They say a parent's love is the strongest force on earth. But what happens when that love forces you to make an impossible choice? This is the story of Mark, a single father who gave up everything for his daughter, only to have his life turned upside down by the one person he never expected. Mark was a star programmer at a top tech firm, a real rising talent. But outside of the office, his world revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily was his sunshine, a bright, bubbly girl with a laugh that could fill any room. But a rare autoimmune disease was slowly dimming her light. The treatments were grueling, the hospital visits constant, and the emotional toll was immense. For years, Mark juggled his high-pressure jab and Lily's care. He'd work late into the night after putting Lily to bed, fueled by coffee and sheer determination. He'd take hushed, anxious calls from doctors during important meetings. His colleagues saw a dedicated employee, but they didn't see the exhaustion in his eyes or the silent prayers he whispered in the hospital waiting room. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Mark was in the middle of a major project presentation when his phone buzzed. It was the school nurse. Lily had collapsed. Mark dropped everything and raced to the school, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Seeing her small, pale form on a cot, he knew something had to change. The doctor's words later that day confirmed his fears. Lily's condition was worsening. She needed more consistent care, less stress, and a stable, present parent. The constant back and forth, the rushed mornings, the stressed evenings, it was all too much for a fragile system. That night, watching Lily sleep with her favorite teddy bear tucked under her arm, Mark made the toughest decision of his life. He wrote his resignation letter. He was trading his career, his financial security, and his professional identity for something far more precious: time with his daughter. He walked away from a 6-figure salary, stock options, and a future he had worked so hard to build. Life after quitting was a different kind of hard. Money became incredibly tight. They moved from their comfortable suburban house to a small, 2-bedroom apartment. He became an expert at cooking budget meals and finding free activities in the city. Their life was smaller, but in many ways, it was richer. They had slow mornings filled with pancakes and silly faces. They had afternoons spent building magnificent pillow forts in the living room and reading stacks of library books. For the first time in a long time, the dark circles under Lily's eyes began to fade, replaced by a spark of her old energy. He was there for every doctor's appointment, every medication dose, and every middle-of-the-night fear. He was broke. He was exhausted. But watching Lily giggle as they painted together, he knew he'd made the right choice. About a year passed. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon. Mark and Lily were busy drawing at the kitchen table when a sharp knock echoed through their small apartment. Mark was confused. They weren't expecting anyone. He opened the door, and his jaw dropped. Standing on his doorstep, looking completely out of place in a tailored suit, was Mr. Harrison, the CEO of his former company, a man known for his ruthless business acumen and almost mythical reputation. Mark's heart sank. Was he here about some non-disclosure agreement? A forgotten company laptop. Mr. Harrison. What? What are you doing here? Mark stammered, instinctively trying to block the view into his humble home. Mr. Harrison offered a small, hesitant smile. Mark, may I come in? I promise I'm not here to cause trouble. Reluctantly, Mark stepped aside. The CEO's eyes scanned the apartment, taking in the crayon drawings taped to the walls, the pile of board games, and the worn-out sofa. Lily peeked out from behind Mark's legs, curious. Hello there, Mr. Harrison said softly to Lily. I'm David. Then he turned back to Mark, his expression unreadable. I need to apologize, Mark. When you resigned, I just saw it as losing a top employee. I was frustrated. I didn't understand. Mark was speechless. The CEO was apologizing. To him? I heard through the grapevine what was happening, David continued, his voice softer now. About your daughter. It reminded me of something. He paused, and for the first time, Mark saw not a powerful executive, but a man carrying a heavy burden. 20 years ago, David said, his voice thick with emotion. I had a son. Michael. He was my whole world. He got sick. Very sick. I was just like you, building my career, working day and night. I thought I was doing it for him, to provide for him. I told myself I couldn't afford to take a step back. I missed so much. Mark. I was in a board meeting when my wife called to say he was gone. I was closing a deal while my son took his last breath. Tears welled up in the CEO's eyes. The silence in the small apartment was profound, broken only by the sound of the rain against the window. I built this empire, David said, his voice barely a whisper. But I lost my son. I saw your resignation letter, and all I could think was, he's not going to make the same mistake I did. You chose what truly matters. That takes a kind of courage I didn't have. He then looked directly at Mark. I'm here because I want to offer you a new position, not your old one. Something better, head of a new research and development department. The work is groundbreaking, but here's the real offer. You work entirely from home. Your hours are completely flexible. You build your own team. Your only key performance indicator is your daughter's smile. Your salary will be double what it was before, and the company's health insurance will cover every single one of Lily's medical expenses. No questions asked. Mark stared, unable to process the words. It felt like a dream. Why? Mark finally managed to ask. Why would you do this? David looked over at Lily, who was now cautiously approaching him, holding up a drawing of a rainbow. He knelt down to her level. Because, he said, his voice breaking, no parent should have to choose between their child and their livelihood. And because I've spent 20 years trying to find a way to honor my son's memory, helping you. This feels right. It's the kind of legacy Michael would have been proud of. Mark's eyes filled with tears as he watched this powerful man gently accept his daughter's drawing. It wasn't just a job offer. It was redemption. It was a second chance he'd never thought he'd get. Today, Mark leads one of the most innovative tech teams in the country, all from his home office, just a few feet away from Lily's playroom. Lily is thriving. With the best medical care and her father's constant presence, she's healthier and happier than ever before. Mr. Harrison, or David as they now call him, is a frequent visitor. He never fails to bring Lily a new book and always stays for a game of checkers. He found a family in Mark and Lily, and in doing so, found a piece of the peace he had lost so long ago. This story reminds us that behind every title, every position of power, there is a human being with a story of their own. It shows us that true strength isn't about climbing the corporate ladder, but about having the courage to step off it for the ones you love. And sometimes, an act of compassion can rewrite not just one life, but many. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires.